Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at a couple of new Pokemon TCG cards that are coming around. Well, it depends where you are. If you're in Japan, these cards are from Super Electric Breaker, the upcoming set. If, however, you are in the West, then they are, of course, from Surging Sparks, the upcoming set. And I say new, but really there's one new card, and one card that is only new if we put it in quotation fingers. Let's have a chat about it, shall we? Starting off with a new Eternatus that I like very much indeed, but I've not heard everybody saying the same thing. Fun little side note, this is of course the first non-rule box Eternatus we've ever actually had in the One Piece TCG. We had the V, and we had the V Max, and we had the Radiant Eternatus, but this is the first time we actually find ourselves getting just regular, ordinary, everyday, run-of-the-mill Eternatus. Is it any good? Well, starting off, we've got a basic Pokemon with 150 HP and no weakness, which is a good start, plus phenomenal Akira Igawa artwork, which isn't relevant to the playability of the card, but I need to point it out because it's stunning. And basically here, you've at least got a little bit of bulk. It's still only 150 HP. You're still going to get KO'd by a lot, let's be clear. But 150 HP, no weakness on a single prize Pokemon is at least pretty good. Good start. And then we got two, what I think are pretty useful attacks. First attack, we got single Darkness Energy, 10 damage. But if you are attacking into an EX, you get to do 80 more, 90 total. And I was sitting backstage at Dawn Regionals this past weekend with a couple of people who said, well, hang on a second, what's the point of this attack? And it's like, well, gets a lot of damage on the board, turn one, going second. Like, it's not KOing any EXs here. I'm not pretending that it is. The goal here is not to go and start KOing EXs, and if your goal is to start KOing EXs with this, you are going to be disappointed. And as a side note, it is only EXs, not Pokemon V, like we've seen on stuff like this in the past. But there's every possibility your opponent starts with something like a Squawkabilly that you will 2-hit KO with this attack, or just get 90 damage on the board turn one going second, which is a pretty good start. Or any other basic EX. You know, there's other weak EXs like Mew that you will be 2-hit KOing, which is really rather nice. But even outside of that, we've got EXs like Raging Bolt. And no, 90 damage doesn't even 2-hit KO them. It's a 3-hit KO, and you're not getting 3 hits on Raging Bolt before this goes down. But that's not the point. The point here is that you can get 90 damage on that Raging Bolt to make it easier to then finish off with another one of your Pokemon, and then Raging Bolt itself will actually have to discard 3 energy, because 2 will be 140 and that won't be enough, you've got 150 HP, just to take one prize, and then the prize race, you know, that prize map is getting a little bit awkward, and that's going in your favour. That's what I like about this first attack. No, I don't think you're getting a bunch of big KOs. I just don't. But I don't think that's really the point. The point here isn't about getting lots of big one-hit KOs with Eternatus. The point is getting decent damage on the board early doors so you can finish it off with something else. And I'm sorry, but single energy 90 on 150 HP, no weakness basic Pokemon, I think is worth getting a little bit excited about. What else is worth getting a little bit excited about is the second attack here. 1 fire, 2 darkness, 230 damage, but you must discard a stadium in play, and if you don't discard a stadium in play, this attack does nothing. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, this one, I mean, look, there are very, very good and very, very bad things about this. So if we start off with some good, you know, this KOs a lot of stuff. It actually is still 10 damage away from Raging Bolt, and yeah, sure, you can use Vitality Band to bridge that 10 damage gap, but we've talked about this before. Like, if we're putting free energy onto a Pokemon, we really don't want to then be having to play a tool like Vitality Band to get over the hump here. That's a little bit annoying. Okay, so you'll miss a couple. But generally speaking, 230 is the magic number, and you will KO most relevant Pokemon with this. Whether you're talking about something like Roaring Moon, which will totally go down here, or Iron Hands, which will totally go down here, or even Terrapagos, which we saw this weekend is absolutely legit. That will go down here as well. And that's kind of my point here. You are KOing a lot of irrelevant Pokemon. So what's the downside? Well, there's a couple of downsides. Mostly, it's just about the energy. You see, 2 Darkness, 1 Fire energy isn't nothing. It's actually kind of relevant. Plus, if you look at the ways we would generally accelerate these energy, they don't really work. Like Magma Basin for Fire energy doesn't work here because you're not a Fire Pokemon. Dark Patch doesn't work here because you're not a Fire Pokemon. Janine doesn't work here because you're not a Darkness Pokemon. So we got ways for Darkness Pokemon like I've just told you. We got ways for Fire Pokemon like I've just told you. And neither of them actually, well, none of them actually work here because they are all specifically for those types of Pokemon, and we don't have that right now. And that's one of my biggest issues with this card. Getting the energy on is a little bit of a pain. Once the energy's on, and look, I know we've got to 150 HP, and that's quite a lot for a single prize Pokemon. And we don't have any weakness, which is pretty nice for a single prize Pokemon. But it's still only 150. And the reality is, you will get KO'd a bunch here. And when you get KO'd, you're losing that free energy. And that's my biggest problem with Eternatus here. You know, we've got general ways to accelerate energy. But, you know, Crispin's a great example here. But the issue we've got is that after you've gone through all the effort of getting the energy on, which is a little bit of effort, you're then left with a Pokemon that's probably going to lose the energy, and then you're going to be done. Still bear in mind, we're still talking about 230 damage on a single prize Pokemon. If you can get the energy on, you are going to skew the prize race in your favor, and that's going to be lovely. But there are, shall we say, significant hurdles. I'm giving this one between 3 and 4 Wassies. When I give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. No, neither attack is perfect. I'm not pretending that it is. But 90 damage for a single energy, turn 1 going second. The chance of KOing most EXs, almost all basic EXs, with a single prize Pokemon, that alone has got to be worth having a little bit of a look at. So with that borne in mind, what's the other one that's gone and been revealed, the quote-unquote new Pokemon, rather than just flat-out new Pokemon? Well, it's Pecharunt. And of course, for us, you're going to look at this and go, hang on a second, Wassie, that's not a new Pokemon. No, it's not. This is, in fact, the Pecharunt that came around in the free pack blister for Shrouded Fable. It was a weird kind of card initially, because it was a mechanically unique card that Japan hasn't got. We occasionally get cards that Japan hasn't had, but as a general rule, it tends to be things along the lines of alternate arts that Japan hasn't had yet. It's very rare that we get mechanically unique cards with no idea of how Japan is actually going to get them. Well, we did for a while. This came out in Shrouded Fable. It's been a little bit of a while. And then, eventually, it seems Japan is finally getting these cards. It took a while, but they did finally get hold of them. And this is interesting, of course, because over in Japan, we had to, well, because they didn't have it, we had to ban this card from the World Championships. We just weren't allowed to play it at Worlds, which is a very unusual situation. Because generally speaking, obviously, you know, the only cards we can't play at Worlds are the cards that Japan just doesn't have, or that Japan has that we don't have. So it ended up banned at Worlds for that reason. You will also notice that there was an illustration rare that came around in our Elite Trainer box that we've not seen in Japan either, but this one kind of answers itself. Like, if the regular is in Japan Super Electric Breaker set, then one of their 12 illustration rares is going to be the illustration rare of Pecharunt. That seems like, well, I mean, one of the easiest predictions you'll ever see. So although they technically haven't shown us off this illustration rare yet, we've not seen it over in Japan, we can say with an extremely high degree of certainty that it is in fact going to be in the set over in Japan, because it kind of has to be. And the good news is there's no translation needed for this card because, of course, we've had it for nearly 2 months now. What we've got is Toxic Subjugation. As long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, put 5 more damage counters on your opponent's poison Pokemon during Pokemon Checkup. So the combo here is quite simple. We use Brute Bonnet to poison your opponent's active Pokemon. And bear in mind, this entire combo can be done turn 1 before your opponent has even drawn a single card. So first we use Brute Bonnet to poison our opponent's active Pokemon. We leave Pecharunt in the active, so the 5 extra damage counters puts it up to 6. Then we use Perilous Jungle from Temporal Forces, which goes and puts another couple of damage counters on. And these are all adding damage counters. It's not it goes up to 6, it's 5 more. Jungle isn't it goes up to 3, it's 2 more. So these will absolutely work. And then we've got Radiant Sneasler, which is still in the format, came around in Lost Origin, and that will add another 2 damage counters, and that is potentially 100 damage, turn 1 going first before your opponent even gets to draw a card. If you're playing a poison deck, being able to put this active as a single prize Pokemon while your opponent takes a whole bunch of damage from poison, that seems to work very nicely indeed. But we've had this one for a while, so we don't need to talk any more about it. I like Eternatus though, but I'd like to know what you think, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.